Final stat line here for Miller Moss: 27 of 36, 378 yards and 1 touchdown. Sorry, I said 2 touchdowns earlier. It was 1 touchdown. 1 touchdown for Miller Moss. And Garrett Nussmeier: 29 of 38, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Both of these guys looked so ready from the moment this game kicked off. From the moment their offenses took the field, they were ready for the moment. And Kirk Herbstreit made this point, talking specifically to all the young quarterbacks out there who, might want to transfer because they're not playing. These guys are old school. These guys are old school, and guess what? It might not be the flashiest, sexiest thing to do all the time. It might not be the most popular thing to do, to wait your turn, to ride it out, and then capitalize on your opportunity. But both these guys showed you in this game that method still works. They were phenomenal. I'll start with Miller Moss. I watched him in the Holiday Bowl last year, didn't have a big sample size. I watched Garrett Nussmeier last year in the bowl game. Again, not a huge sample size, but what I saw from Miller Moss in that game against Louisville, who had one of the best defenses in the ACC, they were the runners-up in that league last year. Taking on LSU should be different, right? ACC, SEC. There's a difference, right? That's the narrative. That's what the 24/7 composite rankings would tell you. And Miller Moss was not fazed. His decision-making is that of a 7th-year veteran quarterback. If Bo Nix is still playing college football somewhere, somehow, that's what Miller Moss looks like in the pocket. I thought his ball placement, his decision-making, his accuracy, his consistency, his poise, he felt like he was in control of the game. And he's going up, as I mentioned, a much, much, much improved LSU defense that I thought had some really good moments, and certainly some moments that they would like to clean up. Because LSU, I didn't see the penalty yards, 99 penalty yards for LSU. They have to clean that up. They absolutely, the targeting at the end of the game kind of sealed the deal, and then USC ran for the game-winning touchdown instead of trying to kick a game-winning field goal. I did think in this game, Brian Kelly, first drive, 12 plays, you get down inside the 5, take the points. Take the points. Yes, they end up losing by 7, but I'm a fan of taking the points when you go on a long drive like that, particularly to begin a football game. But I think that for Miller Moss, he was so in command and spread the ball around so incredibly well. You look at the receiving core, Kyron Hudson was the leading receiver with 5 catches for 83 yards. Then Zachariah Branch had 4 catches, and Lake McCree had 4, and Jacoby Lane had 3, and Deuce Robinson had 2, Kyle Ford had 2, Mekhi Lemon had 1, and then a couple other guys had just catches that weren't really that noticeable. But my point is, he was operating Lincoln Riley's offense the way it's meant to be run. And that's not to say that Caleb Williams didn't, because USC's offense was phenomenal last year. But it's reasonable to question going into a season whether or not a quarterback in particular is going to produce, even though he might be capable of it on paper, if he's going to produce at the same level of the guy who was there running the system for the last couple of years. It's pretty clear that he is. And my take on Lincoln Riley all offseason was, you got to fix the defense. Oh, okay, yeah, you did that. You need better personnel. Oh, yeah, Kamari Ramsey was everywhere. Kamari Ramsey was all over the field, transferred in from UCLA this offseason. And I was trying to find the tackle stats here, going through the box score, but and I couldn't find them for some reason. But Kamari Ramsey was making plays all over the place. And I thought the defensive line just looked so much more physical and so much better. And we were saying all last year with USC, you don't need to have a great defense. You just need to be average. Can you be capable? In the Big Ten, where you've got offenses that struggle, that are celebrating quite literally in Iowa, with good reason, scoring 40 points against a vastly inferior opponent, that LSU offense, let me pull up USC schedule real quick. And you tell me which of these offenses you think is markedly better than what LSU is putting on the field. Because I thought Garrett Nussmeier was great. Utah State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, Notre Dame. Which one of those do you say, no doubt about it, I take that offense over LSU's? I was far more impressed with USC's defense than I was unimpressed with LSU's offense. And if you give that to Miller Moss, I think that guy's got it. The accuracy, ball placement, decision-making was good. And now let me flip the script and go to Garrett Nussmeier here, because the same sorts of reactions are the ones I have with Nussmeier. I mean, phenomenal. The way, there was one throw in particular that kind of sold me on Garrett Nussmeier. And look, I liked him coming into the year, but was I sold? No. Same thing with Connor Wegman at Texas A&M, who I think is going to have better games as the year progresses, and Notre Dame's defense played really well. But when I look at what Nussmeier did against USC, there was one throw in particular that stood out to me. He stood in the pocket, had time. He wanted the downfield shot. He looked. It's there. It's not there, and he checks it down, hits the running back, picks up a first down. The maturity of these two guys does not match the number of games they have started a quarterback. It goes far beyond it, and that's a great thing for both of these offenses. I think LSU's offense has another gear, and I believe that because they won't always play defenses as good as USC's played tonight. And when you look at what Nussmeier did, arm talent, accuracy, decision-making, Herbstreit was making this point throughout the game. And the interception, I think, was just the one at the very end. Unless I'm misremembering. I missed only like a half quarter of the game or so. And if you look at, or what Herbstreit said is, Nussmeier is not making bad throws. He's not making bad decisions. He's making good decisions, and he's not really missing throws. He's layering the ball. He's putting it on time and on target. And both of these guys look like they threw such catchable balls. And again, Nussmeier's numbers here were really good. 29 of 38, 304 yards, and 2 touchdowns and an interception that I don't really care about. But neither of these teams ran the ball particularly well. 26 carries for 117 yards for LSU. USC even worse, 23 for 69 yards. Like, they had the run. Woody Marks had the touchdown at the end of the game, but neither team was dominating the defensive line. And you know what a question about LSU was coming into the year? How is the defensive line going to hold up? Looked pretty good. You didn't disrupt Miller Moss enough, but they weren't getting gashed on the ground. And USC wasn't getting gashed on the ground. So I was really impressed with the way these teams played. I think they're both going to win at least 9 games this year. That was my record prediction for both of them. And I'm leaning, we'll see. I'm leaning towards 10-2 for USC. They were one of my favorite over bets of the year. They were at 7.5. I thought they'd win this game. If they play like this throughout the course of the year, they've got a couple of tough games. Penn State comes to town. Nebraska comes to town. Notre Dame comes to town. On the road, they have to go at Michigan. They have to go at Washington, who, granted, against an FCS team looked really good, but not everybody looked good against an FCS team. See Oregon. But I just getting back to Nussmeier here, I was really impressed. Accuracy, timing, ball placement, decision making, the arm talent was showed off. I really liked it. I really liked what I saw from these quarterbacks. So yes, USC wins the game, LSU loses, and that stinks if you're a Tigers fan. And for those who told me that LSU couldn't lose this game, it's okay. I accept your apology. That isn't going to arrive. I understand that that's how this works. I am buying stock in both of these teams because of how their defenses have clearly improved and how impressed I am with those quarterbacks. They might not have a bunch of starts under their belt, but they play like veterans, and they were awesome tonight.